tell me your name.
Emily.
And you, tell me your story.
I guess it primarily starts off with my parents' religion. My parents were Jehovah's Witnesses, and they forced me to go to church like about 3 times a week, like my whole life. And by the point that I was like 15, I'd really had enough of it. You know, I'd gotten made fun of in school a lot for it, and you know, I wasn't allowed to hang out with people that weren't their religion, and there was really no other kids my age. So it was just really bad all the way around. And so by the time I was 15, I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. And they had a huge problem with that. And for about like 6 months, we just, you know, like fought all the time about it until the point where they told me that I had to leave if I wasn't going to continue with the religion. You know, so they kicked me out, and I moved in with this guy that I was dating then, you know, and that turned into like a really abusive relationship because I depended on him because I didn't have anywhere else to live. And, you know, I couldn't, like, get an apartment myself because I was too young.
Right.
And that went on for about 2 years. And after that, he ended up shooting me. He was just, you know, I was afraid of him, and he had a lot of weapons and everything. And I went to the police, and I told them, you know, I want to leave this guy, but I'm scared of him. I think he's going to try and do something to me. And they said, like, until he makes an actual threat on your life, we can't do anything. So, it was like a month later that, I was like, I got up to go get a shower to go to work, and he was sleeping, and my phone was like plugged into the charger right beside the bed. And, I guess I got a text message from my brother that said something about, like, are you going to leave him yet? And he read the text message, and he came in the bathroom and ripped the shower curtain off and held me at gunpoint. And the dog barked in the next room, and he looked away, so I went to run away, and he shot at me 4 times. And he hit me like in my like lower back. And at that point I hadn't talked to my parents in 2 years. And even after that, like, I ended up staying with one of my friends because, like, even after I got shot, my parents wouldn't even, you know, talk to me again. And you know, then I got into like a real depressed state, and I started doing drugs, and I got addicted to heroin real bad.
Right.
And you know, I mean, I don't know if you know anything about that, but my life was like straight downhill from there. And I ended up getting married to another guy who also did heroin.
Yeah.
And, you know, we started selling drugs and getting in trouble all the time. And he ended up shooting someone and killing them.
Right.
And that was about 2 years ago now. And so, you know, we both went to prison for that. And I was in prison for about a year. And he got a 20-year sentence. So I got out of jail about a year ago. And I kept using drugs because I just, like, really couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with all the stuff with my parents. And I couldn't deal with, you know, having seen somebody get killed. And so I ended up getting in more trouble when I went back to jail. And that was in, you know, the end of last year. And I didn't get out until, like, maybe like 4 months ago. And, you know, I've been clean since I went to jail. And really, like, the only way that I've stayed that way is by having good friends, you know, and working a lot.
Yeah. What kind of job do you have? You don't have to tell me where.
Right now?
Yeah.
I box.
You box?
Mm-hmm.
So you actually compete?
Yes.
Oh, wow. And so, so you travel and box, or you do it mainly around this area?
I travel.
Right. And how, and has it been, that been what is saving you?
Definitely.
Right.
Absolutely. It was the only way that, you know, I started boxing when I was like 18. You know, after, you know, I'd been shot and I was, you know, still on my own and everything. That was the only way that I could really make enough money to take care of myself.
Right. When you were homeless, were you ever actually on the streets? Like,
No.
did you spend any nights or
when, you know, I was on drugs and everything, yeah.
Right. And do you remember that time, or were you...
Not well. Not well.
Right.
You know, but there was times where, you know, like, I had this apartment that I was, like, working my ass off to take care of, and, you know, like my landlord found out that I was doing drugs. He found like, you know, like empty heroin bags in my garbage or something, and just like came and kicked me out, told me I had like 10 minutes to get out.
Right.
You know, so like that's like days where you're like sleeping in your, you know, broke ass car.
Yeah. And what was that like for you?
Really awful. You know, and there's other times where me and my ex-husband were on the run from the police. And, you know, couldn't stay in the same place one night in a row. Just really bad.
Right.
I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Not on my worst enemy.
Yeah. I usually ask people what their low point was, but it sounds like I might know. But do you have a specific low point in your mind?
If I had to pick one thing, it would be hard for me to pick between, you know, like my parents kicking me out, because that was like probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. But then again, you know, like seeing my husband kill somebody and him, you know, basically losing the rest of his life is probably my lowest point.
Right. Yeah. That would have to be qualify as a low point. Was there any positive influence in your life that you've looked to? Any one person?
Any one person? I've had, you know, one friend that's stayed constant to me through all that, you know, and religion has definitely helped me, for sure.
Right.
And just like the few people that were there that were on my side, you know.
Right. And when you say religion, do you mean a religion that is between you and God and not going through, you know, the Jehovah's Witnesses?
Right.
Right. So that's important to you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you know, not necessarily God, but a, you know, higher power than yourself.
Right. So are you in a program, and are you in a program now? Like
Yeah, actually,
AA?
the charges that I went to jail for the most recently were charges for fighting. You know, I had an aggravated assault charge.
Yeah.
And so I'm in like an anger management program and everything now. And you know, I completed a drug and alcohol program.
Yeah.
So that stuff definitely helps too.
Yeah. Now, how old are you now?
23.
23. You know, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm not necessarily an interviewer, so you have to be a little patient with me.
Sorry.
I'm not that great at this. Okay, so when you're at your low point, what got you through that?
I mean, like when I was addicted to drugs that heavily, you really don't know what's making it, like you make it through it at that point. You know, it's just like every day you're waking up and the first thing you think about is how, you know, you're going to get drugs so that you're not sick. And that's the last thing you think about before you go to bed is how you're going to get it the next morning so you're not sick. And it just kind of goes on like that every day. You know, but
So you weren't in control?
no. But, you know, at the same time, I've had a lot of experiences, and, you know, going through that in my childhood has made me a strong person. You know, if I can make it through that, then, you know, what else can you make it through?
Right.
So, you know, I guess perseverance and just, like, not giving up on yourself.
I'm perplexed as to why you weren't taken and put into a foster care situation or into a state care at 15. If you went to the police and said, I'm 15.
I didn't tell them how old I was. And they kind of just, like, they really didn't ask me that. They really didn't seem to care about the situation much at all. You know, and, like, the way that this area is, there's so much violence and so many shootings here all the time, and so many drug problems in this area, that things like that kind of take a lower priority here.
Right. So they didn't even ask you how old you were?
No.
Was it obvious how old you were?
I mean, I suppose that they could have, you know, I had tattoos already and stuff, you know. So I guess that they could have, mistaken my age. But
It's odd that they didn't ask for your ID.
no, they didn't ask me for anything. They didn't even ask me my name.
So your problem wasn't important enough to them.
Nope.
How does that make you feel?
Shitty. Awful. Like, there's a good possibility that something like that wouldn't have happened if, they had done something then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
It took him shooting me and me having to go to court and see him, and all of that for anything to be done about it.
Right. So that moment you were shot, what was going through your head?
That I didn't want to die. That anything would be better than that.
But it still wasn't enough to turn you around.
I would say at that point I wasn't really on a bad path yet. I hadn't really done anything with drugs yet. I was still just like...
Yeah, you were working,
I was
right?
still, yeah. I was working a lot. And, I was just trying to make it at that point still.
Yeah.
I hadn't even had time or, energy to consider drugs or anything like that.
Right. So...
It just happened that I was, in that situation under those circumstances, and that's all I had to work with.
Yeah. So what would you say to kids that are at risk, who are in trouble? What would you, if you could speak directly to them?
I would say to utilize every resource that they can, programs that are out there, and, like foster care and anything like that. Utilize it, because I wouldn't want anybody else to go through that. And there's no reason to put yourself through situations like that when there's help.
Yeah.
You always think that there's no other way, but there's always other options.
Yeah. What does the future hold for you?
Hopefully, a good career with boxing. And, I don't know, no drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're really writing the end of your story.
Yeah. I'm divorced now. I divorced my husband as soon as I got out of prison.
Yeah.
So I'm just moving on from all of those things.
Yeah.
And especially to kids, who get involved with drugs and everything like that. When that's going on, you don't think it can ever get any better, but it always can.
Yeah.